So in this video, we're going to have a look at the new research agent, or the updated research agent, which Microsoft have just announced as of the end of October. So what this does is essentially gives us what they're calling computer use. Now this allows the research agent to be able to launch a secure cloud PC within Microsoft's data centers to do things like open documents, extract information, even open a website and browse the website in real time, which is really useful if you need to get access to a website that might be gated. So that could be your internal SharePoint site, that could be an external SharePoint site hosted by somebody else, it could be another SaaS application or something along those lines that requires the user to sign in, access potentially sensitive information or just information from somewhere else that the agent can't natively scrape using its retrieval tools. Now, to do this, we do need to activate computer use. So you'll see here there is a hover over button that allows researcher to perform those tasks. We'll see that in a moment. You can, of course, still add content as you would normally. So that might be content you've downloaded or links to other content. And we also get this source dialog where we can control where we want our agent to be able to pull information from. So you'll see here we can add entire SharePoint sites or we can turn the data off. Now, for the purpose of this, I'm only actually going to be using web-based data because I'm asking it in this example to analyze my blog posts and understand a bit more about them, why some perform and why others don't. So why do some perform well and others less so? So I'm going to just ask it this information without giving it computer use. And then what we'll do at the end of this is we'll run another comparison where we will use the computer use mode and see whether this gives us a little bit more information, a better output than this standard mode. So I might pause this video as we run through because researcher can take 10 minutes or so from experience in the way that it works. It's not a simple quick response mode. It is doing deep analysis and deep research. So let's click go. Let's see what happens, and fingers crossed. So again, this is using researcher in its current facility. So researcher, as I would expect, kicks off. It's asking me for this information. It's asking me for the trends that it wants. It's asking focus. So yes, please just use my website, my blog site. Include data from the last 12 months. So that's what I'm going to ask it to do. So it says, now I haven't given it my blog site, so that's interesting that I haven't told it where that is. So maybe it's picking that up from its memory. Remember, Copilot does have memory now. There we go. So it has remembered that from Copilot memory. Remember, Copilot does have memory and operates within your context. So if I hadn't told it this, it would have come up and asked me for that website, which is great. So let's see what information it pulls back. Again, I'm using the researcher agent currently without computer use for now. Again, as researcher does, you see the complete analysis, the way in which it's really trying to break down this information and think about the output. And as I said before, this is why the agent can take 8, 9, 10 minutes sometimes to compile its information, depending on, of course, the data you've given it and the complexity of what you've asked for. You can see here it's already going beyond my initial thinking, so it's looking at Google Analytics and LinkedIn and other kind of external sources. I haven't asked it to do that. So I am going to probably pause this just about here to see how long this takes. Okay, so I did pause that for almost 5 minutes. To be fair, it has now finished, so it's now producing the report. It's been quite interesting just having a look at the way in which researcher is pulling this information together. But if we have a look up, it's given me it's given me an interesting top level summary. Now, I can't see where it's getting this information from. It's not really told me where it's got this from. It has pulled some high level stats for me as well, which is interesting. And yeah, again, showing where some of these blog posts are really getting huge amounts of page reviews, which is good. So it's given me a kind of a top level. And so again, quite in depth, low performing, which is interesting. So again, quite interesting. Performance drivers, yeah, it's giving me some of that. SEO, interesting. So it's saying here your top posts were likely optimized intentionally or not for search engines. So really in depth. I mean, I say this is a really, strong review that it's given for me on here. It's given me some tips. It's asked me to optimize for SEO, so product names, for example. So that's good to know. Promote it, yeah, obviously that's good. Learn from low performance. So yeah, what didn't work before. Overall, it talks a lot about the kind of content and strategy and the things I use. So that was really useful. Set of information is quite in depth, and I guess it's done this without actually having access to the back end of the blog site. So what I'm going to do now is essentially ask it the same thing, and I'm going to go back to researcher. I'm going to start that post again, and then I'm going to enable computer use. Now, the first time we use computer use within a session, it is going to ask me to accept the condition. So it's just giving me a little bit of guidance around these things. So I'm going to accept that. Again, I can give it the sources as before. I'm just going to use web mode on. You need to leave at least one mode on. And I'm going to see what it does this time round. Now, the fact that it does know what my blog site is interesting. I wonder whether it's going to attempt to sign in as me. Obviously, the website is readable, so I do wonder whether it's going to have a go at doing that. Now, brilliant. So first thing we've noticed here, so it's not asked me a kind of question at the beginning, but it's now kind of come back, started to analyze some data. You can see here, what it's looking at, what it's thinking about, and how to do that. And the first thing that it said is, look, what are you currently using to tracking? Are you using Google Analytics, WordPress built-in stats? So are you logged in, and do you want me to guide you through accessing it? So I'm going to say to it, look, I'm not logged in. I use WordPress built-in stats. I can log in there. So I'm telling it that I use WordPress. I'm not logged in. I'm telling it I can log in should it want me to. Now, what I'm hoping it's going to do is go to that site, because I haven't given it the URL of my WordPress admin dashboard. So it's it's going to ask me, I hope, to do that. In fact, it's actually asking me for the WordPress URL, which I'm going to go and get and then paste into here for it. So I've managed to get the URL. So it's my blog site domain with the WordPress logon site. So I'm going to give it that information, and we'll see what Researcher now does with that. So you can see here it's opening a page. So it's ready to load. That's great. This is now the Cloud PC, Cloud Browser experience opening in the background. Now, a lot of the information that I've seen on this talks about how quick this Researcher mode works. Now, obviously, where this is slightly different is it needs me as the user to take action. So whereas previously the Researcher mode is just going to do its thing, here it does need me to interact. So this is obviously what takes a little bit longer, and this is really an example of Copilot working with you as the user rather than just doing things for you. So you'll see here now it's given me access to do things. I now have control of this. You can see I can navigate around here, and I can click on the drop downs and change things. So I'm going to click on here to log on with WordPress to go to the site, and it's going to ask me to put in my information. So I'm going to type that in. I'm going to pause the recording just while I do this, just so that nobody else captures what I'm doing. So I've now typed in the password and the username password into here, which obviously I skipped. I'm now going to use the authenticator to put in the codes. This is the one-time passcode. There we go. So I've now signed in. Obviously, I can navigate this page as long as I need to, and then of course I can give control back. So we can see some stats and things like that in here. I can now, of course, return control. I can navigate to the stats and all sorts of various other places that I might want to go to. And now I can give control back to Researcher. Now, I've got no idea what experience Researcher actually has over using and navigating a WordPress site. So this will be quite interesting to see how it kind of gets on. So there we go. So it's now looking at the interface, and here we go. It's going to have a look at potentially driving this. So that'd be quite interesting to see what it does. But what you can see here now is this is far richer experience than it could possibly have done, because this content was hidden behind the various gates. So what Researcher is doing is understanding the context of the web page that it's in, and it's essentially navigating. It's finding its way around the page to see what information it can kind of find. It's really strange. I do always find it funny that one of my whiteboard apps app updates, which I've probably not written about for a while and probably should, has more views than probably most of my other ones that you can see. So it's certainly navigating along to see what it can find. It's even picked out a typo for me, so thanks. Thank you for that one, Copilot. As I said before, we can collapse this. We don't have to look at what it's doing and how it's navigating. We can just leave it in sort of analysis mode, if you like, and this gives us a little bit more of an understanding of what it's doing, similar to the previous experience, but we are seeing the workings, we are seeing the screenshot data as it navigates down. So we don't have to have that screen open. I can now leave this and kind of carry on with some other work that I might be doing. I would imagine as this evolves, it will not only learn, I mean, it can search, obviously, and understand the ways in which these different applications work. You may have seen Copilot Vision, which is currently in preview in the consumer version, which has even got an understanding of different applications. You know, you could use Copilot in something like Adobe Photoshop, and it can help you navigate the interface because it actually understands how to do things in those particular applications. So this is really a different level of deep reasoning that we have now with these tools. And this first stage of just kind of taking over a browser even and navigating is quite powerful. It's very similar to how Copilot Actions works as well, which is currently in preview in the consumer version, where you can do things like book flights and hotels and those kind of things, and the tool will navigate to your preferred website, Expedia or somewhere like that, and it will actually drive the web interface for you, prompt you for information it needs, and fill in information, and then pass back to you when it either gets stuck or whether it needs a little bit more help in order to do something. So I'm just kind of rambling on while the site is carrying on. It's doing, a whole set of analysis. You can see here now it's telling me that it's starting to have a look at the referrer information, so I can go back to kind of see where this information is coming from. Now, I don't pay for any Google ads. I don't generally pay for sponsored ads or any of those kind of things. This is just natural traffic. This is not monetized. I don't make money out of my blog sites. This is generally how I learn. I read about something. I write about something. That's generally how I gain my own knowledge. I seem to have a brain like a sieve unless I write something down. So this is why I blog quite a lot when I read about things. So you can see here it says it's actually taking snapshots as well. So it's going to bring a couple of snapshots to these things for me to highlight the top blogs and those things. Now, what this didn't do, you may have noticed, is it didn't ask me for the time period. It didn't say, do you want the last 18 months or 24 months? And in the previous one, that's what I did. I did tell it 18, 24 months. So again, as a comparison, if you're doing a comparison between these two different modes, you might want to do that. Obviously, I'm just doing this for an example purpose. If you're doing research generally, then you can be as broad as you need to. But also remember, the more specific that you are around your prompts, then the tighter that information, the more accurate that's to be based on what you want first time round. You can, of course, refine. That's one of the great things about the way that these agents work, is you can continue to refine your output. And remember, this is gathering a lot of this information in the background. So once it's gathered it and I ask it more information, as long as it's not having to go and get new information, then it should be able to quite easily navigate this down and just extract or represent the information back that I ask it to do. But you can see it's pretty thorough. So again, I'm going to pause here and allow this to keep running. And when it's finished, I'm going to come back and we'll carry on. So I've just popped back in to just to exaggerate some of the things that it's told me it's doing. So it's also looking at why some of my posts have been more popular than others. So it's doing a web search based on some of the key articles that I've pulled out or talked about to see what other information that it's finding out there on the web. So you can, again, see the level of complexity that this research agent is really doing. And yes, it does take time to run, but that's okay, because other than having to sign in to get the data from my WordPress site, Copilot's been doing this purely autonomously without me having to do anything else at the moment. So I'm going to pause again, let it carry on. Okay, and it's now kind of finished. So it's told me that it's finished reasoning. I had paused it for literally just a few more minutes after that. And we can now see what it's trying to pull together. So it's told me it's created a report. It's just going to have a skim through. So it's done the last 12 months. Okay, that's fine. It's done the last 12 months for me. If I scroll down, it's going to give me some of that data. So it's gone from December to November, which I guess is 12 months. It's pulled out some of the information. Now, it's found the top ranking blog. It's not actually gone down and shown me the others, which is a little disappointing. No, it has. There we go. I missed the scroll box. So if I keep scrolling down, it's going to show me some of those things. But I can't actually see the number. So that's a bit disappointing. It has ranked them in order, but it's... Oh, there we go. Yes, it has sort of 2.8K. Okay, yeah. So it's not... It wasn't particularly well formatted, actually. It's taken me a while to interpret the data. That's fine. You can see it, scheduling going down a little bit down here now as well. Okay, great. It's given me some analysis about the high performance. So again, it's having a look at some of these things, and it's gone and done some deeper research into why these posts are performed. So it's almost a completely different type of response to what the researcher did without computer mode, which I'm not sure whether I expect it to do that. I kind of assumed that it would still function in the same way, but just have more data to reason over, which it didn't do. We'll flip back to that in a moment just to have a look. Again, similar kind of guidance. Again, timelines. Yeah, so that's good. It's actually found here that this was a good one because your article was published around the time that Microsoft announced major updates to it. So maybe that was a timing thing. So it's kind of saying, look, be timely with what you update. Also good SEO. So it's saying this is good SEO. So thanks for that as well. So lots of information, referrals from search engines. Yeah, great. So outweighs social sharing. So that's interesting. More of these blogs are picked up by social rather than necessarily sites that people refer to. Niche things, so that's interesting. Less descriptive titles, so list of improvements with M365 that don't capture popular queries. So again, it's given me some really good guidance here around SEO, and that's certainly something I need to have a look at. It's given me some recommendations and those kind of things. So again, very similar kind of breakdown to what I had before. Now, it has told me it's generated a report, which is interesting. So it hasn't actually kind of given me the formal report. I can obviously see the research here of what it's kind of collated. If I click on this, then, what's it actually going to open? Well, probably nothing, because it doesn't really know what to open it with. So I'm going to kind of go back and say to researcher, I can't open a .md file. Can I have this in Word? So I'm hoping it should be able to do that for me. Not quite sure why it's generated a .md file. Maybe if Mike's listening, they can tell me. Kind of almost feels like it's not quite finished. I was expecting a bit more of a kind of formal report, unless it actually asked me a question about that. So no, it's just here's your report. So great, it has given me a report. Okay, okay, fine. I really hope it's not going to go back into this. It looks like it wants me to take control again, which is a bit of a pain. I wasn't expecting to have to do that. Okay, yeah, that's fine, I guess. I'll give you control back. Now, while it's doing that, we'll flick back and we'll just compare what the output looked like in the previous one. So, as you know, this was the same post, the same request. It did obviously ask me information. It did this a lot quicker, but the level of detail was definitely lower. I mean, I like some of the visuals here. I prefer this, in fact, to some of the others. It's given me very different response. It's picked up, I think, slightly different. We'll have a look through and see what ones it's picked up here. But again, the data I think is better presented here. Again, I think it's picked up very similar things. But I wouldn't say this is, conclusive. I think this is a slightly different view. It's talked about the Copilot Pro, great. It has, I'm looking for Whiteboard because Whiteboard obviously was a really big one that it highlighted before, and I still get loads of views on that even now. And it's quite an old blog, but it's not, it's pulled up the low performing ones here, but it's not pulled up the high performers on this page at all. So yeah, I mean, you decide, right? It's certainly clever how it's doing this. It was pulling this information when it was using computer mode directly through the web interface. So if I flick back over to here, I'm really interested to see, what it's doing. This is the report that it's just done. Yeah, that. I'm giving it control back. Okay, so there we go. So it has now some preparing to sync the file, which includes the chart. There's no need to separately sync. Okay, so I do wonder whether this is just a little bit of a blip. This is in preview, but it does now tell me it's created a report document. So drum roll, we're going to click on report and we're going to open the report file. It's opening a Word. That's a good sign. And here we go. So it has produced a Word document for me. It's not particularly well formatted if I'm, being a little bit cheeky, but it has got some really specific data, which it's obviously got that because it's had access to the core feature. I probably believe the data from this more because it's taken that key information from my statistics rather than making that thing up. And I guess that's part of what we have to do with AI, right? We have to check, we have to review, we have to check the information sources. Now, some of the stats it's spilled out here I know are correct because sadly I do know some of the stats on my site. So again, relatively useful report. Okay, so here we go. So this has pulled only one example, but it has pulled an example of my top 10 posts over the last 12 months, which is what it's pulled. Which is interesting. So it has done that. Would I have liked more? Yeah, probably would have liked a bit, a few more screenshot examples. Would I have liked this formatted a bit better? Yes. Ideally, I would have liked this to be a little bit more polished. Perhaps in the future, the agent will be able to, open Word online and actually start pasting this information into the report in a slightly different way. You can see in the background this was really kind of using Python code to generate the app. So I do hope at some point it will get better at this. But I think this is a good first comparison. I'm sure you'll have your own examples of things that you're going to try within this agent to see how it gets on. I think if you had some more complex sites or it was navigating over more gated content, then that of course might be quite useful. Internal HR systems, those kind of things, where you're not necessarily going to just go and download all the content and then upload it into Copilot to do its work. Of course, you are covered still by the enterprise data protection if you are doing that, but the ability to have it explore information, look up links, those kind of things are quite useful. I do quite a lot of analysis around competitor information, things where I point it at websites and things like that. The ability, I think, to have it to actually navigate and look for specific content will be quite interesting. So anyway, sorry for the long video. This was kind of hands-on, first time, trying to give you a bit of a comparison. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know your experiences of using the researcher agent with computer control. And remember to keep checking back. What if you're watching this, it's 2nd of November today. If you're watching this in a month's time or 2 months' time, it's probably evolved massively. This is in preview. It's part of the Frontier program. So this will only improve over time. Thanks for watching. If you did find this useful, please do like and subscribe. It really helps this content reach other people. It helps my follower base increase, of course, and it gives me a bit more of a reason to create these videos on a Sunday afternoon. Thanks so much for watching. Catch you next time.